welcome to Turtle Tracks Podcast. This is your host, Brian VanHooker, and I'm here with Jeff Goodwin, the makeup effects artist from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from 1990. Jeff, how you doing today?
Good. How about you, Brian?
Good. Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Be fun.
So, I should mention that you have a new book out. It's called Continuity of a TMNT Movie. It's on Amazon, and it's got tons of pictures from the first movie that I have never seen. Like I thought, like it being a movie that's like been poured over so much by especially by fans like me, like we figure like we've seen everything, and it's cool to have like new stuff pop up. So thank you for putting that out.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I hope people will. I mean, Turtles has been one of those films that when we made it, we had no idea what it was going to become, and it's become quite the film that people still love today. So I'm glad that we have stuff that people still enjoy and can bring something new to the table to let people see.
Speaking of which, I would love to hear your initial impression when you got it, because I think like I grew up with Turtles. I don't remember before Turtles. So like I think people take for granted the fact that like the title is a goofy title. Like it's a really strange collection of words. So like I'm curious what your reaction was when you got this.
Well, I mean, I talk about this. It's the last little thing I put in the book because it's always been my favorite thing. My favorite Turtle story actually takes place before and after us making the film. Because, like you said, we shot Turtles in 1989. That's why, to me, it's always an '80s movie. To me,
Sure.
For me, it's when we make them, and it came out in 1990. But when I was doing another movie, I was doing the original *Handmaid's Tale*, actually, a feature film that most people don't even remember, which is kind of what's funny about the whole story in hindsight, too. And had a great cast in that film. And I was waiting on them to come back from rehearsal to go into the works, to get the makeup and ready to go. And I was reading the script that they sent me that they were talking to me about doing next after I finished *The Handmaid's Tale*. And so I was reading it, and the actors came back into the trailer, and Robert Duvall jumped in my chair, and we started the process of getting him ready. And he saw me put the script away, and he goes, "What were you reading?" And also, just so you know, too, that script came in a beautiful black cover binding, which was unusual. Really black cover with gold embossed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on it. And so I put the script away. And Duvall said, "What are you reading?" And I said, "It's a script they sent me. They want me to do next." He goes, "What is it?" I said, "It's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles." And he goes, "This is Robert Duvall, remember?" He goes, "What the hell's that?" And I go, "I don't really know. I just started reading it." I said, "But it seems like it's guys in turtle suits doing martial arts, eating pizza, and cracking jokes." And he goes, "Oh, that just sounds terrible. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be involved in anything like that. It just sounds terrible. Pass on that. Don't do that. Don't do that." And I said, "I don't know." I said, "From a makeup point, it could be very interesting,
Sure.
And he goes, "Oh, no, it's just terrible. Don't do it." So, cut to, we finished, *Handmaid's Tale*, which had a great cast. I mean, based on a great book, and very little fanfare when it came out after we made that film back in 1990. Cut to, of course, I did Turtles. And of course, as you know, and all the Turtle fans know, it was the biggest independent film ever in history at that point, made more money than anything ever. Huge hit. So a few years had passed. I'm walking out the back of a movie studio. And as I'm walking out the back door of the studio, I see Robert Duvall coming across the parking lot, heading straight to the door home. So I just stood there and held the door open for him. And as he came by, without breaking stride, I just love this whole thing. Without breaking stride, he comes through the doorway and he just nudges me and goes, "You were right about those turtles," and just kept on going. So that just cracks me up still to this day.
It's great.
Yeah. But yeah, Turtles was, I'm glad it is still around and doing well. It was actually not a fun and easy film to make, to be honest, because of the fact that it was such brand new technology all the way around.
Sure.
With everything. And it was a low budget picture.
Yeah.
And we had 2 full units going simultaneously pretty much throughout. And we didn't have the budget or the crew or anything to really cover that. So we were doing even worse hours than normal because we were having to cover 2 units a lot of times.
Like it's so interesting. Looking at your you've done so many movies. I'm curious if like picking a movie for you is different than maybe like an actor or director. Like, is it really about like you said about the Turtles? Was it about the challenge of a particular project more so than like the quality of a script, for example?
Well, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've had a 44 year. I just retired, but I made films for 44 years, and I had very I had a good, as I like to joke, I had a good ride. I have very fortunate that I worked with great people all over the world and have made films now that there's a handful of them that will, I think, stand the test of time. They're considered modern day classics now.
Oh yeah, I
Turtles,
mean, like to like just tell the audience, like you worked on JFK, you did a Rambo movie, you did the. I mean, I'm sure people in this crowd will love that you did the Mario Brothers movie.
yeah,
There's so many wonderful movies that you did, and like all over. I mean, all different genres and all that too. Like, I'm just curious what stood out to you.
well, that's. I mean, my personal favorites would be like Blue Velvet for David Lynch,
Sure, yeah, of course.
The Last of the Mohicans,
Hmm.
Michael Mann, who I did a couple film, did Manhunter for him prior to Mohicans, and
Swamp Thing too. Like,
one thing I got to work with Ang Lee,
yeah.
Thorndorf, Nicholas Roeg.
And a
I mean,
recent one, Black Phone was that's a very good movie.
Black
That
Phone,
recent one. Yeah,
Black, really good movie. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I've been fortunate. What I look for actually is a good script.
Oh,
Number
okay, interesting. Okay.
one, to me, like you said, that my genres have been all over the place, and that's kind of why I'm not drawn to a particular genre, even though, of course, horror and sci-fi and stuff kind of lends more to crazy makeups and stuff. But
Sure.
to me, what is a good script, and then
So
hopefully
then why pick Mario Brothers? I mean,
Mario Brothers. Yeah, good point. But okay, well there you go. That's what I don't realize is the original script for Mario Brothers. That's how they got the cast they got. That's how they got Bob Hoskins.
they have
Dennis
amazing people in the movie. Yeah.
exactly, because the script that we were all given is not the script we shot.
Really? Okay.
It was one of the most notorious bait and switches ever.
Really? I didn't know that. I don't know that movie super well. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
I've always thought that I don't understand why SAG, Screen Actors Guild, didn't get involved in that and start
Interesting.
kind of protecting and changing that up because of that. Yeah, we literally all of us got a script, and that's what we were prepping for. And we arrive on location to set up to start making the film. And day one, they hand us this new script, and we're all like, oh, "This is not what we know. This is not what actors." Oh my God,
Sure.
Bob Hoskins and Dennis just. Oh, no, it
Yeah,
was
and like masters of their craft, those guys. Like,
yeah, they're great. I worked with both of them. Well, Dennis and I worked a lot together over the years, and Bob and I worked together several times too.
mm,
And unfortunately, we lost both of them now.
yeah.
Especially Bob, way too early.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And sweetheart of a man. But his experience on Mario was just so bad that he would never talk about it afterwards.
Really?
Yeah. He just it was not a great experience.
Mm.
And it was a train wreck of a shoot and of a movie. Unfortunately, it has gained like a cult following now.
Oh yeah. I
Uh,
saw this collection recently. I think it was like $200. It was like a 4K Blu-ray set. There was books and all this, and I was like, and I watched it as a kid. I'm making fun of it now, but it's fine. But like some people that I don't know if you were involved in that set at all, but man, like
yeah,
there were some people who love that.
I do a commentary track on that.
Oh, awesome. See, yeah.
It's Umbrella Entertainment out of
And the
Australia.
makeup effects in it are great, by the way. There's like the makeup, everything. The movie looks cool. It's just weird. It's not Mario.
Well, that was funny because that what got me as a kid, my hook, my as I said, getting bitten by the film bug for me was when I saw the original Planet of the Apes in 1968 when it came
Sure.
into theaters. When it originally came, I saw it, and that was it for me. So
Mm.
Mario Brothers, oddly enough, was supposedly in my mind my Planet of the Apes in a way, except I
I
was
can see
trying
that.
to create
Yeah.
a lizard world instead of a ape world, basically.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of fun makeups and stuff that we got to do in that. A lot of them didn't make the final cut. I mean, we had so many little, lizard people and stuff that you barely see in the
Really?
film, and different things. But it, um, uh, it the, the funny thing too about that, and thank you for saying it's good makeup, because we actually got uh, several nominations. We
I didn't
was
remember that.
nominated for the Saturn Award for Best Makeup for that
Sure.
film, and I've been basically shortlisted 3 times for the Oscar,
Okay.
and the last one was for Mario Brothers,
Oh
and
wow.
I was shocked when I got the call for that because I'd been shortlisted before for Blue Velvet and Last of the Mohicans. That makes sense to me. Mario didn't make sense to me, but it was
That's
fun.
so funny.
But I'm glad now. Like I said, I've been kinder to it as I got older with that film because it does have such a following and so
Some
many
people love that movie.
people love it. They grew up
Yeah.
on that film and they just absolutely love it. So I've been trying to be a little kinder to it because of that because I don't
Sure.
want to somebody loves something and
Yeah.
I'm glad that I mean we all worked hard on the film.
Yeah.
In fact, that was a crazy long shoot too. In fact, we had 3 units, 3 complete. We had a
Wow.
full first unit, full second unit, and a visual effects unit because it was also the very first film. There were 2 productions in going at the same time, which was us and Jurassic Park, and they were the very first 2 films to ever use digital effects.
Huh.
And so it was quite interesting to seeing and being a part of that because back then they couldn't. We had to fill in a lot of. We had to start and stop certain things physically, and they could fill in. But it was an interesting process, and of course, it's just grown and grown and grown from there. But I'm not a fan of the. To be honest, I'm not a fan of the digital age.
I think it has its place. I think there's some things that really work, but I also think like when it's taken the place of things that we could do practically,
When it's
drives me
used,
nuts.
I think I've never worked with him, but I think Robert Zemeckis probably uses it the best as a tool, like
Mm,
not as the in the but as a tool to get where you. I think it's great and can be
yeah.
used effectively and good. But when they just now are just relying on it, and the thing I absolutely hate, and it's one of the reasons why I pull back now and not doing it anymore, is because nowadays I'm old school, and these hands are what did the effects and even like pull the trigger in most cases for most of the effects and stuff. Nowadays, it's digital. They don't care, and I absolutely hate hearing we'll fix it in post.
Mm,
That's not filmmaking. That's lazy.
sure.
And the thing that really bothers me is the fact that when it was actual film was the most expensive thing on a film set. The actual film.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
When they would roll camera and you hear the film running through that camera, everything that was in front of that camera had to be right first time and every time because that's money. You
Mm,
know. Now they roll camera and it's zeros and ones.
right.
There's no money really. It costs very little to buy the digital cards, and so they just roll the camera and hope for the best. And in fact, a lot of the new directors now that have never touched film are really bad about rolling camera and never cutting between takes.
So you have just
So therefore, let's say
yeah.
let's say you're doing a dinner scene.
Sure.
You can't reset props. You can't go in and do touch ups. You can't do any adjustments. Watch background. The extras in movies nowadays, you'll see background just literally just disappear because they can't reset background. And so when you go to edit it, nothing matches. Nothing is sloppy filmmaking,
Sure.
and that does not interest me in the least.
I still think they haven't I said I think some things work. Like I like superhero movies well enough. Like for me, Thanos worked because it was a digital creation, whatever. Like that looked fine. But like there's simple things like I don't think movies have gotten that de-aging thing down. Like it looks off.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
never works.
Yeah. No, I agree. You can do it with makeup, and correct lighting. Lighting plays a huge part in what we do.
Sure.
You can achieve all these things with that. Yeah, I don't think the anti-aging
They haven't
CG.
cracked it yet. They haven't cracked it.
I agree. I agree.
Speaking of lighting, let's jump back to Turtles because that movie is very dark.
Yeah,
And I mean, what are the unique, like, even outside of the effect suits, which we'll get to soon enough. But like, are there unique challenges just to having a movie that's that shadowed?
I love that actually.
Yeah.
I love realistic. I've worked with so many great DPs over the years that I really learn from them, and it's
Mm.
so important to what we do as far as how something photographs and is lit. So really pay close attention to that. And reality, I love. And in fact, I've always grounded all my work in trying to be, whether it be crazy sci-fi stuff or whatever. I try to ground all my work to be real, and that helps, I think, create the worlds. In fact, that's something Judith Hoag and I did a screening and a Q&A together last year, and I complimented her because her performance in that film really helped bring the turtles to life
Oh,
because
totally. Yeah.
she, they were real to her and her performance,
Yeah.
and that made it real. And I just think it was great. But the lighting, I personally, I think the first Turtles film is, in my opinion, and it's not just because I did the first film, but I still think it's the best because of the grittiness and
Handling.
I don't know. I think it fits better with the intent of the original comics than any of the other films after.
Absolutely. And I think because so much of it was hidden in shadow, the things that don't work you don't see.
Yeah,
Right? Where the other ones were brighter and sunnier and like you can see you see the cracks a little more.
yeah. Well, I mean, apparently they changed it because apparently a lot of the parents got upset
Yeah.
saying it was too violent, too dark, so they kind of kowtowed to that and changed them up. And I just don't think the rest of them ever quite matched what we did with the first one, to be honest.
It's so funny like you're talking about Judith, and I think like I mean, fans love her, and I've interviewed her, and she's just this lovely person.
Mhm.
Um, and you're right, the whole movie, and then speaking of Bob Hoskins, the same way Roger Rabbit works because of Bob Hoskins, the Turtles work because you believe her talking to them.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And Paige Turco, I know Paige and work with Paige
Be
as
great
well.
too.
Other things, they're both great.
Yeah.
And both did a great job. But I just think still the original and Paige's performance really you believe them because of her.
Yeah, Judith does like really and I mean the only other person they really talk to also is Elias Koteas, and he is also, I mean, obviously a phenomenal actor, and he's
Great
very
actor. Yeah,
yeah,
very. Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing. It was grounded in reality, and
yeah.
and I think that's what makes it work. You know. Yep.
Now, so just to explain to the audience, you worked on the makeup of the people. Now, did you also can you explain what you did for the turtles themselves? Because what was the creature shop and what was you?
Well, Jim Henson and his shop made the suits, and they were phenomenal. And I used to joke, but it's not a joke, that Jim Henson's probably the only true genius I ever really worked with.
Mm,
And he was phenomenal. And unfortunately, he passed away right after we finished the film
yeah.
from walking pneumonia. I mean, just what a tragic, senseless loss, in my opinion. And the suits were groundbreaking for that film as far as the sensors. The puppeteers had sensors on their faces that any movement they made was then mimicked onto the corresponding turtle
I
mask.
thought it was all done by hand. I didn't realize that.
It was a both. It was both.
Oh,
It was the first time that computer programming, and this was all computer stuff, and it took forever, to be quite honest.
sure.
And it was a new technology then. And when the computers went down and crashed, uh, we were down for hours to reprogram and get it, up and
Sure.
going. So it was, working the bugs out, but in the end, it worked beautifully and looked great. Um, and what I was involved with was, like you said, doing all the makeup for the actors and like Shredder's scarring, and Elias gets beaten up and all that stuff. But also the Turtles. Steve Barron, director, thought it was hilarious that I had just done Rambo 3 right before I did Turtles. So he actually had me put a turtle. He had me put a Rambo scar on Raphael's cheek. And so if you go back and watch the film, a lot of people didn't catch it, and they go back and see it now. They go, "Oh my God, you're right. He's got a scar on his cheek." And then also, again, Steve wanted everything to be grounded in reality and make it real. So he wanted, when the turtles get into fights, he wanted to see them get bruised and injured. And they don't do that in any of the other films.
Yeah.
But when this was brought up in pre-production, Jim Henson didn't like that idea because of the fact that, like I said, it was a low-budget production. So they basically only had 3 suits per turtle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was constant work and upkeep of the suits, as far as the wear and tear on and the martial arts and the stuff that these guys did was amazing. But also, if we had to repaint the suits over and over and over with the bruising, clean them off, repaint, it would start to give wear and tear to the suits. So Jim didn't want to do that, and so I said, "Wait a second, let me start playing with this." So I came up with the idea and did it where I did all the bruising, and I'm the one that did it on the turtles by using watercolor. And then we could just wipe it right off, and it didn't affect the paint job or the suits at all. And therefore we didn't have to completely repaint the suits each time. And so that's how I did the bruising on the turtles and stuff. Was that? But like I said, it was a tragic loss that we lost Jim.
When did you first meet him? Was it on that movie?
On that film?
What was do you remember the first time you met him? Like where you were, what you were working on, all that?
It was in prep. He wasn't around that much, to be honest.
Right.
He was around a little bit at the very beginning in prep. And then he was around a little bit during the shooting. But to be honest, when he was around for the shooting, it was really for publicity reasons.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's where you
They
see
made a trading card of it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's where you see the photos of him.
Yeah.
It was all done, for that kind of thing. But I mean, his son Brian was really the one running the shop at that time, and
And the
Brian,
second unit. He did the second unit director. Yeah.
and he second unit as well. Yeah. Yep.
Now wait, so did you meet him in North Carolina, or was it when the turtles were being built in England?
They set up the shop, and they started in England and then set up a shop. They basically had a sound stage,
Right.
that turned into their shop there in Wilmington, North Carolina, and that's where we first met there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What was he like? I'm curious of your impressions.
Kind of shy, very kind of quiet, shy, personable, but a little, shy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I remember, so for the longest time, the turtle fandom or whatever has thought that the rumor or whatever the talking point was that Jim Henson didn't like the turtle movie because it was too violent. And that always bothered me because I was like, because my 2 favorite things are Turtles and Muppets. So, and one of the first people I interviewed on this podcast way back in 2018 was Steve Barron, because that movie is my favorite turtle anything ever. And I really wanted to talk to him. And he clarified this to my delight, which was there was some initial hesitation on Henson's part about doing it. But once he saw the final product, which he did live to see,
Yeah.
He was very happy with the results and kind of equated it to like a swashbuckling Three Musketeers kind of thing, and was very happy with the movie itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was. To me, it's a fun little movie. Still, I think it holds up pretty dang good.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. It's one of the ones I'm very proud of to be a part of. Yeah, there was some initial concerned as far as the violence for children. But it was all done kind of tongue in cheek and in good spirit, and I don't know. I think it turned out to be fun.
The the any impressions about Judith back then, what she was like?
Juice was fun. It still is. And like I said, it was any film is its own creature. But when
Sure.
you are really working the hours that we work, you really get to know people, kind of in the trenches, and that was a film that we didn't really have a bad egg on. That was
Mhm.
it's important, and all the actors were great to work with. Judith and Elias and James Saito and all of them, they were great. And everybody was there because they love what they were doing, and it shows, I think, in the film.
Yeah, speaking of James Sato, the in the book, I thought it was very interesting that you laid out the different iterations of Shredder's scarring. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was fun because um, I really like Steve Barron, the director, but the original design for Shredder kept changing throughout because of everything was in, like I said, it was low budget, and we were shooting 2 units simultaneously, and everything in that we didn't have as much prep, and so a lot of stuff was still being developed and worked on as we were still shooting, and Shredder was one of those characters. So the costume and everything was still being made, and the masks and stuff. And so originally, through the storyboards that Steve did really great storyboards for the whole film.
Was it like, did he draw those?
Well, I don't think he drew them himself, but
Okay. I love that you included those in your book, by the way. I think that's so cool seeing that because
what?
you know those images from the movie. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just love the storyboard. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you liked that, because I think that is a kind of a cool thing that most people don't get to see.
I love seeing storyboards for cartoons and everything because it's like it's a place where it's like very loose and full of life, and it's so cool to see those. I love that.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I mean that's the thing. It was storyboarded out really well, so that helps us so much as a
sure.
crew. Going in to know exactly, boom, this is what we're going for. This is what we're shooting. And so the original idea for Shredder was that the scar was going across the eye.
Hmm.
Which I love that kind of look anyway. But as the mask and the costume started developing, they realized that you could see that, and it needed to be a reveal.
Yeah.
So then Steve decided he wanted it on the side of the face, on the cheek area, and he asked for me to do a specific thing, which I did exactly what he asked for. He loved it. I hated it.
It's
I
very
thought,
superficial.
yeah,
It's very like cool, simple scar kind
yeah,
of.
it
Yeah.
wasn't anything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's thing. I just really didn't like it. And somebody recently asked me, because I have been so fortunate to work on so many iconic, known films. Somebody asked me recently, he said, "What's it take to work on an iconic film?" And I'm like, "Well, you don't really know that going into it." So I
Sure.
said, "Yes, the thing that, in my opinion, is that everybody needs to bring something to the table."
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and so the scars is something I feel like I brought to the table for Turtles, because I just didn't like the way it was going, and so we literally I did something which you're not supposed to do. Uh, I got really kind of down about it, and I kept the we were supposed to shoot it the next day, and so
Oh.
we already done the test, and I just didn't like it, so I just was like and so I called James Saito and said, "Man, can you come in early tomorrow?" And I called him in earlier than he was supposed to, which you're not supposed to do. And I stayed up all night resculpting and made a new molds and new pieces. And I got him in early, and I put those pieces on him. And then we got the mask, and I took him down to the set to Steve, and he had the mask on it. And I said, "Steve," I said, "to me, this is Shredder." And I had him take the mask off with the scars you see in the film now. And Steve, like, "That's it." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, oh."
Well, because it's really disfiguring in a way that the other one wasn't. Like It's like you wonder why is Shredder so pissed off? He's a very superficial scars on his cheek.
Yeah,
Whereas the final result is something like, oh, I would be mad if a rat did that to me. I would hate that rat.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love too that it's very subtle, but if you see the film, you see what I'm talking. As he's taking the thing off, and then he this kind of gently rubs his hand across, and you see it move,
Mm.
properly. And it's just it's a little thing. I liked it better.
So you convinced Baron in that moment then.
Yeah, yeah. So
What was he like as a director?
I like Steve a lot. He's
Yeah.
very good director. I mean, his thing too, which you probably know. I mean, he did movies, but his really he did so many of the early great music videos for
Oh my
people.
gosh. He did Thriller, right?
No, he didn't do Thriller.
No, he did one Michael Jackson one. What am I
I
thinking of?
did, but he did like the rotoscoping Aha video.
Yep.
He did so many great, in fact, he did first computer. He did Money for Nothing, Dire
Oh,
Straits,
Dire Straits.
which was all computer. It was one of the first.
Yes.
Yeah, Steve did some great work as far as the music videos and stuff that he did. Really kind of groundbreaking stuff. And Steve was I enjoyed working with him a lot. And the DP, um, Finner. I think the work they did was great, and I enjoyed working with both of them.
I am so like I'm trying to figure out what he did one Michael Jackson one. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, he did so much like it's crazy to think how many I think he was mostly hired because of his work with Henson in Storyteller.
Yeah.
But he's a great music video director, like so many amazing ones. Like
Yep.
I'm actually looking at the list now and I'm like, oh wow, there's more than I actually
Yeah.
realized. Right.
His list of music videos is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, he did the video for Billie Jean, I guess.
Billie Jean. Okay, that's a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Here's a question for you. Do you have any memories from, so there's a couple of like, you don't know at the time, but there's a couple of like superstars hiding in the Foot Clan cast there. Like Sam Rockwell, Skeet Ulrich. Anything come to mind about those guys, or were they just kids in the crowd?
Skeet was very quiet back then because that was literally the first thing he ever did. Skeet and I have become friends and worked together several times
Oh,
since
you
then.
did Scream too, right? You did
I
or no?
did. I did the
Whoa.
Scream reboot in 2022. The reboot of it. Yes,
Okay.
that, and also Ang Lee's Ride with the Devil with him, which
Okay.
is a beautiful, really good movie about the Civil War. And yeah, Skeet's a good guy, and that was his first thing ever in the film. And Sam Rockwell struck me right away as being a really interesting, good
He's
actor. In
great.
fact, I said to my hairstylist the first day that we met Sam doing makeup tests, because my hairstylist, Michelle Johnson, who's fabulous, we did so many great films together. We had done a film in the early 80s with this up and coming, really good actor named Gary Oldman.
One of my favorite actors. Yeah.
Yeah, who I've always said is one of the best in a human chameleon.
Oh goodness, yes.
And when that first day of working with Sam Rockwell, doing the test and just getting his, energy, and I turned to Michelle and I said, "He's a young Gary Oldman."
Yeah.
And
that's proven true.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
yeah, he's really good.
Speaking of that, Raphael, I was going to mention that Rambo scar. So was the scar like a duplicate of something from Rando? Was it something left over from Rambo?
No, actually, real leftover pieces that I had not, applied, obviously, because once you apply them, you can't.
I was the one-time use. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. So yeah, and so I had them left, and he thought it was funny and wanted me to put a Rambo scar on him. So I put a Rambo scar on all the Raphael heads. So if you go back now, you see it. And what I loved too, just a few years ago, and I absolutely love this. I bought one because I love it so much. The NECA toys, which are so
yes, I was just about to bring that up. Yes, I have those.
so well done.
They have the scar.
Has the scar.
My buddy is the one who kind of oversees all that stuff, and man, their attention to detail is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell him thank you because I got a big kick out of that.
Yeah, they pour over everything meticulously, and like yeah, Raphael's got a scar. There's really like all those details are really on
Yep.
point for those guys. I was gonna say I'm so glad that you bought one. That's so cool.
Yeah, the shredder's got the double heads and it's got the scars on the shredder figure and stuff. So it's fun. I think that's fun.
Has other, I mean, that must be interesting for you. Is it interesting, like, what other works of yours have come out as toys? Because I'm guessing there's some stuff from Mario too, right?
There were toys from Mario, but they were not really detailed.
Oh yeah, they're not like that. Yeah.
I did another film years later that NECA did toys that were amazing too, but you can't find them anymore. Which was a film called Virus with
Okay.
Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Sutherland,
Oh, I
and
don't know that
there
movie.
was a whole set of those figures as well, which were really well done.
NECA does amazing work. They're,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, what are some any other lasting memories from Turtles that stand out to you years later? Anything that went super wrong, for
Well,
example?
one of the stories I don't think people really know, which just cracked me up, when we were shooting the film, we're trying very hard to keep it under wraps as far as no pictures, are allowed out of the turtles. Even when we were on location stuff, they were trying to hide the turtles quite a bit so people really couldn't, know what was going on yet. And these poor guys in the suits, they were fantastic. Um, Josh, was the only one that was actually in the suit and used his voice.
Yep.
Rafi, all the rest of them, it was somebody else's voice later, but Josh is the only one that was in the suit and used his voice. But these guys went through hell to be
Oh yeah.
as far as the amount of work they had to do. The suits are not comfortable, hot. The weight of them alone, because all the computer and all the mechanism stuff's in the shell, so they basically had 60 pounds on their back on top of the suits and doing the stuff they had to do. So one day, the studio where the studio was in Wilmington, basically across the street was a place called Scotchman, a gas station that sold like a 7-Eleven type of deal,
Okay.
drinks and candies and stuff. And so the Turtles all stole a production van one day and went across the street in the suits.
Ah,
I thought production was going to die, but it was hilarious. I mean, can you imagine that poor guy working in the store, not knowing anything, and a
with the
van?
heads on?
And yes, 4 turtles get out and go into the store. I mean, I would have loved to have been there. I wasn't there. I was there when they got back and production was not happy, but I just can't imagine that poor guy working there.
That's great.
Yeah. So
What any other artifacts that you still? I mean, I know we were talking about the NECA toys, but do you have anything from the shoot still from that movie?
I actually had, which they're they're almost non-existent now because most of them were actually destroyed at the end of the shoot, literally shredded. They shredded the suits and stuff for the most part.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, but
Why?
I still had a who was it? Donatello, I think. No, sorry, I had a Leonardo stunt head and arms and legs, and I gave those to the Cape Fear Museum in Wilmington, North Carolina, um, probably a decade or so back. Donated them to them because they are starting to deteriorate because they're
Yeah.
fun, and unfortunately, they will not be around forever because they will. It's just the nature of the beast. They disintegrate, literally turn to powder. But it's still the pieces are still there. They're starting to deteriorate, but they're still there. So I gave them a lot of my stuff and gave them the remaining suit parts and stuff that I had.
Oh, that's wonderful. What's the name of that museum again?
Cape Fear Museum in Wilmington, North Carolina.
I know I've never been to it, but I know like once a year they do a screening of the movie at the old farmhouse.
That's where Judith and I the last
Oh,
did last year. Judith Hogue and I were at the one last year there at the farmhouse for the screening and did a Q&A with the people, and
Oh, cool.
it was fun. It was nice.
That's probably a good another stop there then is to go to that museum and check out the suit there. That's cool.
Yep.
What made you want to do the book? Because I'm guessing you had those Polaroid. Like, did you find the Polaroids one day and say,
Yeah, I moved away I lived in Italy for a long time,
okay,
and all my stuff had been kept in storage here in the States, literally for like 20 years.
oh wow,
And when I moved back and got rid of my storage unit and found all these photographs from that film and all these other films I'd done, I started going through these, on-set Polaroids, which is what we used to do to keep continuity. And as I started flipping through some of these photos that I was finding from a lot of these films, it really struck me as like, oh wow, people need to see these.
they're cool. They're really cool.
Um, Blue Velvet actually was the first one I did. I did a book on Blue Velvet.
Oh, nice.
Polaroids the same way, and that one was the first one I did because of the fact that that film has such a love-hate thing still to this day. People either love that film or hate the film, and it has a bad dark connotation as far as abuse and stuff. But nothing could be farther from the truth. Isabella Rossellini was not abused in making the film.
Oh,
In fact, she and David Lynch actually fell in love while making the film.
oh wow.
Together for a long time after that movie. But as I was flipping through the Polaroids of us on set, you see in the Polaroids that we're having fun. You see that. And it's like people need to see this because of that fact alone. And I think just going through some of them now, like I said, I've been fortunate to work with people on films that people still love to this day. So going through all the photographs again, I think that it's fun. I think, for the fans that are still love these films to see a little bit of the behind the scenes and the making of them. Some of them, 30, 40 years later, so
It's cool.
fun.
Like you see, like Judith looks like she's having a blast in those
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's the thing. We all
yeah,
were having fun. I mean,
the
that's,
Shredder thing is super cool to see the evolution of all of that with the
yeah,
storyboards and the makeup. It's really cool.
thank you. I'm
Yeah.
glad, I'm glad people are enjoying it because I mean,
Is there a
that's,
Mario book on the way? Because people love that, I'm sure.
well, we're talking about it. I've been in contact with those guys, Steve Applebaum, and all the guys that are in charge of the whole Mario World fan club, and they're the ones that worked with Umbrella to do that box set. The box set for that, I gotta say, that box set is one of the most impressive box sets I've ever seen for a film.
It's
Anywhere.
crazy. They went all like they did everything. Like, it's crazy how much included in it. Yeah.
It really did. So I don't know if you can get much better than what they already did with that. And some of my photos are included in the little book too that's in
Oh,
there.
nice.
So I don't know. We'll look at maybe doing something with Mario Brothers down the road, but they've done such a good job with the Umbrella thing. I don't even know if it's necessary.
Sure. My last question for you, and I ask this of everybody, is who's your favorite turtle and why?
Oh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. I loved all those guys actually. They enough can not be. I mean, what they went through.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
That and just the fact that I mean, all of them with the martial arts, but good God, Mish and his stunt doubles. That as far as Michelangelo doing the nunchucks with three fingers, three fat fingers, and they were doing it. I mean, that's not. That was before that CG even existed and stuff.
Yep.
That what you see was happening. It was amazing. Those guys were amazing. They were all great. I guess in some ways I had more to do with Raphael just because of his scarring and and that it bruised them all really. But I don't know. It's hard to say. They were all great. They were all great. And, you can't. It's like picking a favorite child. How can you do that?
Well, just to remind people, it's a continuity of a TMNT movie. It's on Amazon. Jeff, thank you so much for doing this. It was a real pleasure to talk to you.